Welcome to the Stop Down Photography Podcast, episode 69. I'm Scott Davenport. Today's topic, the subconscious bubbles to the surface. Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining me. I'm glad to be back with you for another chat about photography, this passion we share. And in today's episode, let's take one more step on our never-ending journey of photography. In today's podcast, I want to talk about the subconscious mind, and not in a heavy philosophical way, in a way that relates, of course, to photography and how our subconscious can and does affect our photography. And it can do so in curious and interesting ways. After a recent visit to the San Diego beach, I noticed a theme in the photos from that outing, a theme that I wasn't aware of while I was capturing the images. If you enjoy today's podcast, please share it with a friend on social media, with your camera club. If you can, please leave a rating for the podcast. Current ratings keep the podcast on the pod feed radars and helps other photographers find out about the show. So in the past couple of weeks, I went on my first proper sunset shoot in a long time. It's been a long time since I did one of those. Went down to the beach. And this is a beach in San Diego that's got a lot of sandstone rocks, plenty of subjects to work with. The sky was pretty good, not the best, but it was pretty good. And I'm out there taking photos, enjoying the sky. The sun's kind of dipping in and out between the cloud banks. And I'm working the scenes. I'm moving around. I'm taking photos. I actually got to chat with a couple of other photographers that are out there. There was a portrait photographer out there. He had like a lighting kit and everything, waiting for his client to show up. And it was a nice, if not an unusual feeling to be out there again among people working with the camera. While I was fine-tuning one composition at the edge of the rocks, the ocean was just reaching the base of where I was standing on this very small platform of rock. I remember that a surfer walked through the frame. They were coming in from the surf, finished their sets for the day. The late afternoon sun was behind him. He was silhouetted, looked like one of those cool hero poses. And I like surfers, and they just look cool in their element, right? So he's walking through the frame, surfboard under his arm. He's got a really confident stride. And so I grabbed a few photos as he moved through the frame and just hoped I got one where the silhouette looked crisp and, the separation of his legs and a good stride and all that kind of stuff. And I went back to my sunset seeking. I worked several other angles, climbed around the rocks. The sky never really popped, but I had a good time. Got back to the studio, dumped the memory cards onto the computer to get a backup, and that was basically it. I didn't review the photos right after the shoot. Several days later, I bring open those photos. I start browsing, culling, reading, weeding out the ones that weren't going to make the cut. I knew I wanted to work on that photo with the surfer. I finished culling the whole set, sat back, and looked at the set of selected images, and an interesting thing happened. The photos that bubbled to the top, the ones I ranked the highest from that shoot and wanted to work on, they had silhouettes in them. The surfer for sure. There was another one with a silhouette of a couple watching the sunset. Another one with a silhouette of a distant boat out on the horizon with these really cool-looking clouds above it. And this got me thinking. Going into the culling session, I knew I wanted to work on that surfer photo. Did that bias me toward favoring other photos with silhouettes in them? Maybe. It's no doubt that when you're thinking about something that occupies your brain, it has an impact on other thoughts. So maybe I became aware, or at least subconsciously aware, of other silhouettes and kind of developed this theme without consciously realizing I was doing it. My pics gravitated toward these silhouettes. But there's more, right? And this is the thing that's really got my gears turning. I had other photos in this set with silhouettes. I don't particularly remember capturing them when I was in the field, yet there they are. They're part of the shoot. They're definitely from my camera. And I did capture them after the surfer photo. When I was in the field, did the surfer photo subconsciously steer me toward capturing more silhouettes? Maybe. my subconscious may have bubbled to the surface. First on location while capturing the photos, and then again while culling and choosing the selects. So what is my subconscious suggesting to me? Thinking about the last 5, 7, 10 years of my landscape photography, by and large, I've sought out the pristine landscape. No human presence, often not even a structure yet, no house, no boats, just unspoiled nature. Perhaps my subconscious is telling me, you might like a human element in your photos more, and perhaps I should listen. Bit of studio news this week. Back in episode 60, I talked about physical workshops. When would they return, and not really knowing how that was going to take shape. Well, it's been a couple of months. We're showing signs that, at least in some regions of the world, COVID-19 is on the retreat. And while I don't expect a full return to pre-COVID travel and interaction in the next calendar year, but the ability to move about, at least within our own country's borders, is looking good. So I am thrilled to announce physical workshops are back. Yes, they are back on the calendar. In-person, on-location workshops. And this November, the Oregon Coast Photography Workshop. It's happening November 9th through November 12th, 2021. 4 days in beautiful Oregon to immerse ourselves in photography. I am co-hosting this workshop with fellow photographer and podcaster Derrick Story. He's a seasoned workshop instructor and all around a cool guy to hang with. I've worked with Derrick a couple of times in the last 3 or 4 years. Great photographer, great person to learn from and be around. And if you've never photographed the Oregon coast, it's a treasure for the landscape photographer. It's got rocky coastlines, sea stacks, great beaches, wonderful skies. It's one of the most photogenic places on Earth. And if you have photographed the Oregon coast, well, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So this workshop, the Oregon Coast Photography Workshop, the price is $1,295. That's for a 4-day adventure, so 4 full days, including personalized instruction with 2 instructors, on-location guidance, post-processing lessons. We immerse ourselves in photography for those 4 days. And I can't tell you how excited I am about this workshop. Now, the space is limited. 10 participants. We're only taking 10 people on this adventure. And as I record this, there is still space left in the workshop, though I will say the open seats are filling fast. So if you're interested in joining me, joining Derrick, joining your fellow photographers in Oregon this November, press pause right now. If you're driving, pull over, then press pause. Hit the show notes. You'll find the links to both the workshop information page and the workshop registration page there. And I really hope that I will see you and work with you in Oregon this November. Before I sign off this week, thanks as always to the members of Patreon. It is your support that keeps this podcast on the air week in and week out. You gals and guys are there for me all the time, and I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it. Folks in Patreon, you heard about the Oregon Coast Workshop a few days before it went live to the public, and that's one other way that both people like myself and Derrick Story can thank our respective inner circles, our Patreon members, for supporting our respective work. So thank you once again for your continued support. If you are curious about ways to support this podcast and my other work, check the show notes, hit the support the show button. There's links to the Patreon community, and there's also a list of many zero-cost ways that you can support this podcast and help keep the train rolling. And that's going to do it for this week. Think about your subconscious. Think if you've got any subconscious themes that are bubbling up in your photography. Take notice. And think about Oregon. This is the year that we're going to get back outside with our cameras. I am really eager for it. Well, until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.